Alright, so a little bit ago, I played through and put out a video on Need for Speed Heat, and actually had a comment from a user whose name I'm probably going to edit in right here instead of trying to pronounce, but they asked what my thoughts were on the previous game, Payback, and I had to say, I'll have to get back to you on that one because Heat was my first Need for Speed game in a really long time since the second most wanted game from like the early 2010s. And yeah, I finally made it through and can finally see what my thoughts are. I have some gameplay here, first of a little cop chase, and then me sort of exploring this general area of the map that I felt like seemed kind of empty. Wound up not finding a lot, actually. So that was kind of weird. Feels like I might be missing something, or maybe that's just the way it is. I don't know. But yeah, I sort of mess around with this cop chase too. You see me kind of trying to get some takedowns in that because it's fun. But yeah, this game was a bit more different than I was expecting it to be. I thought it would be like Heat, except maybe a little less impressive graphics and customization and some missing features and maybe a less unique progression. Heat obviously did like a day night thing and sort of linked experience and money along with it. So I thought here it would be maybe a little more standard, just a normal day night cycle on the map. No overarching wanted level like there was at night. And all of that's true, but there were some other things I kind of wasn't expecting. Something that kind of stood out right away that I kind of remembered when I saw it happening that was big was kind of the way they monetized this game. Don't get me wrong, what they did definitely wasn't preferred at all. But playing this game goes really cheap on sale. I got the deluxe edition. I on the latest version. I have access to a free set of events they released in an update. So resources were aplenty. I didn't feel too restricted by the system they had in place. But at the same time, I don't know what it was like at launch or down the line when the servers are down and you're relying on what was available physically. And if you get really into customization and getting that perfect look or performance out of your car, you'll absolutely hate this. It goes on a loot box like system. If you're more casual like I was, and I don't know, you'll just upgrade your car all the way and you're okay not getting the bonuses for having matching part manufacturer, or for your look, you're just kind of okay sorting through what you get. Since you do at least get a lot, that would have been a big joke there if they caught me. Kind of funny glitch sticking out of the ground there, too. Not something that happened a lot there, but I so happened to catch one on camera. But yeah, I had enough parts to apply to all the cars I wanted. It just may not have been precisely what I wanted, so it sucks, but I was able to easily go through the campaign, upgrade my car accordingly, and all of that without a major issue. Something that links to that, at least I felt like, was the general difficulty of the game. Like this game, on its easiest difficulty, because I'm not very good, it's definitely noticeably more difficult than Heat. And part of me wonders if that was sort of fabricated to sort of encourage you to interact with their upgrade slash monetization system. So, like I said, I even felt like Heat was maybe a little too easy. It was a bit of a cakewalk, but I found my own ways to sort of challenge myself and make it a little more interesting. Here, though, I didn't have, the same leisure to accidentally go headfirst into a wall and then buckle down, get serious, and still be in a good position to win. Particularly, some of the last couple sets of events were challenging, but at the same time, you expect that from in-game content. So I thought overall it was more fair and fun, but at the same time, I sort of don't like why it may have been made that way, if that makes sense. Something I was kind of surprised at, too, was that the story, I mean, it wasn't crazy good or anything, but I didn't really like the story at all in Heat. I felt like even the way the direction they went and how it affected some of the gameplay and missions wasn't that great. But here, I mean, it's not as short and sweet as Become the Most Wanted by taking out the other Most Wanted drivers, but you get a little cutscene to introduce yourself to the next group you're going against. And then, after you complete a bunch of events, you'll have a story mission, which will be a little more heavy with cutscenes and progression, but I don't feel like it affected the gameplay negatively here. Some of them were some of the best missions in the game, and I like the way everything kind of came together in the last event. And yeah, I felt like the overall narrative itself was just better to me personally. Something that helped the story missions stand out is that something I didn't even realize they did. It kind of reminds me of GTA 5, but you have multiple playable characters, 3 to be exact, and they each have their own sort of role in the group. They'll take on a specific set of events, and then they come together and you switch between them in the story missions. And granted, I wish they did a little more with that. Like, I feel like it kind of peaked in the first couple times they did it. It was still fun in some of the later missions, but it just didn't click as well. For me, there just wasn't a lot of this content in general, but it was kind of a unique, interesting idea that has a lot of potential. At least I feel like. We saw a cop chase earlier. Like, I don't know why I didn't just go through the goal. I guess I was just trying to get a head start on trying to cover ground on, like you saw on the map, this more empty area. But although it didn't matter, I didn't beat a record or anything for that stunt or whatever they're called. But yeah, cop events were weird. You essentially have, as you saw, go along a predetermined path, and you don't even have to worry about your health. I mean, maybe that's a thing on higher difficulties. You just have to worry about getting stopped, and I forget if there was a time limit in the package events that you saw earlier, but in the story events, there was time limits to it, too. So it kind of turned it more into a time trial, although admittedly a fun time trial, since you get to avoid and take down cops, but I don't know, it was different, but I felt like it was kind of weird at points, too, because it's like you even saw there, the cops would just generally stop a bit before your destination point, and it was normally like after a bridge or before a tunnel, and to me that was weird. Like, I think that could have been handled better, whether they sort of, because you can hear the radio of the cops if they had them on the radio just say, oh, they're heading outside our jurisdiction, or whatever it's called. It's this other unit's responsibility if they find whoever we're going after. Or if, because they did it in the first couple story missions, I think, too, is if they had the destination point be a jump, which would make more sense for your pursuers to stop before and not pursue you after. It just was one of those things that just felt a little too unbelievable, I guess. It takes you out of the experience, reminds you you're playing the game. Just negates from, the sense of immersion from the game. I normally don't talk about graphics, but I remember bringing them up last time. And I will say one of the main things I said last time is like sometimes they would do close-ups and it just didn't feel as consistent. This gameplay was actually recorded before. I sort of explored more before starting that cop chase, but I thought we'd start off with that instead, and that fucking sucked. Losing that, I don't even feel like I went that much off the path. Because I missed that checkpoint. I wasn't paying that close attention. But anyway, graphically, I felt like the game seemed more consistent, though. Not as impressive as Heat at its best, but, just less moments where you're thinking, boy, that doesn't look as impressive as it was when I was exploring this other area earlier. Overall, though, the setting in Las Vegas, or Fortune, whatever they called it, I feel like that's a common way, a title for people making their own iteration of Las Vegas. But I think it was a good choice. I think it's a fun, unique location that I'm surprised you don't see more than we actually do. I like how they kind of play into that a bit too, because they have side bets before each race where you could just take on a little challenge during the race for some extra money, which was pretty fun. And the map itself is fine. I will say, I mean, the city was really fun to explore and it looked really great. And I kind of just wish there was more of it. Like, for story reasons, you sort of spend most of the game outside the city. And unlike Heat, which I kind of remember having some, smaller cities on the outskirts, you really don't have that as much. So I don't know. I would have preferred if either you spent a little more time in the city or if there was, a smaller city or two in some of the other areas they have. A lot of desert and forest, which is fine. It's fun. I just kind of wish distribution was a little different. But yeah, overall, not gonna lie, I think I liked this game slightly more than Heat. I'm happy I got that comment to try it out, honestly, just because wasn't very high on my radar. Because, like I said, I thought the general consensus I was seeing was people tended to prefer Heat to this one. So, once again, I was kind of thinking this is going to be like Heat, but worse, potentially. But hey, you never know until you actually play through the game how things click. And, like I said, luckily I found the motivation, thanks to that comment, to get to this one a little earlier. I will say I did have fun, but I could use a little break from the racing games because I played Midnight Club LA too right before Heat. Actually, because I didn't really like Midnight Club LA that much, which is why I kind of played Heat to sort of scratch that itch more. So, like I said, I like the genre. I had fun. Been playing more than I used to and could use a little cool down, I guess. But hey, I'll be back at some point. Do want to check out Unbound, but I don't know, because I think that's still getting updates. I kind of maybe want to wait till that's all through, especially since I'm, not in it right from the start. So we'll see where we go next with this genre.